Hello, Haribo. Welcome to another edition of whatever this is, reading from Vaishnava Literatures. We continue reading in the Madhuraya Kadambini, Cloud Bank of Nectar by Srila Vishvanatha Cakravarti Thakura. We've gotten through up to Anartha Nivriti. So we've gotten past the hard parts. Now devotional service begins, and, well, in a more pure sense, we become steady. And this chapter, starting with chapter 4, and I'm going to try to read through chapter 5 and 6 and 7. Chapter 4 is Nectar begins to flow. So this is basically starting Nishta. One is not fully Nishta, not fully steady, but so it describes the different types of Anishta, which means not being steady, I believe. And then describes Nishta. Then the next chapter is Taste, or Ruchi. Chapter 5. Chapter 6 is then Enchantment of the Heart, or Asakti. And then chapter 7 is Bhava, Flowing of Supreme Bliss. These are all short chapters, so we should easily get through all this today. It's a little more than, maybe it's 12 pages. 12 pages of really, really interesting and really, really cool spiritual stuff. So, without further ado, we will continue reading. If one has any comments or any realization as we're reading, you feel free to, post it in the chat box, or if you're watching this after the fact, somehow or other, please make a comment in the comment section. Afterwards, we usually do some kind of discussion. I'll post the link to the video. To the voice chat room that we use. Okay, so without further ado, let's read chapter 4, or the fourth shower of nectar. Nectar begins to flow. Again, it's Nishta. And this is after anarthas have been removed, or, well, the previous chapter described that not all anarthas are necessarily removed, or all offenses, aparads, are necessarily removed when one is in Nishta, but enough of them are removed that one becomes steady. Because after all, the goal is prema, and even more so, prema in Krishna's association. These details were described. So, if the goal is not achieved, that means there's still some kind of roadblocks there. Being steady in devotional service is a part of the progression on the path. It's not the goal. So if you haven't achieved the goal, then there's still some stuff to be cleared away. Therefore, the removal of anarthas and aparad is gradual, and the process of devotional service is also similarly gradual. So let's read. Chapter 4. Previously, in the discussion of the two types of bhajana kriya, anishta, not steady, and nishta, steady, the 6 types of anishta bhajana kriya were described. Okay, so we talked about that. Without describing Nishta Bhajana Kriya, then Anartha Nivriti was discussed. So, unsteady Bhajana Kriya was described, and then without discussing steady service, then Anartha Nivriti was discussed, because it's more or less within the realm of still being unsteady. But here's the reason why. This is because Srimad Bhagavatam says, Shrinvatam svakata Krishna punya shravana kirtanaha hridantasto hyabadrani vidonoti saritsatam nashta praya shabadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utamashloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. Quote, Lord Krishna, who is affectionate to his pure devotees and situated in their hearts, cleanses all inauspicious elements from the hearts of those who have developed the urge to hear his messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 17 and 18. The first verse, Shrinvatam Svakata Krishna, refers to the stage of unsteady or anishtita bhakti. For steady or nishtiki bhakti makes its appearance later in the second verse, abhadrani vidunoti, the cleansing of inauspicious elements, which comes between these two stages. Refers to the stage of anartha-nivritti. The words nashta prayeshva badreshu, inauspiciousness is almost destroyed, means that a small portion of anartha is still not destroyed. Thus the correct order, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, is anishtita bhajana kriya, anartha-nivritti, and then nishtita bhajana kriya. Thus, in its proper place, nishtita bhakti will now be discussed. So that makes sense, right? At first, you do bhajana kriya, but your bhajana kriya, maybe, you've got all these reasons why you don't really take it seriously, like a lot of distractions, those different things were described. Pure devotee syndrome, then being mental, whether you should be a grihasta or be a renunciant, then struggle with sense gratification, struggle to improve your devotional service, then struggle with the power and the benefits that come along with devotional service, followers, and all these different things. So when one becomes actually kind of like when one becomes serious to engage in devotional service without any distractions, then purification happens. Then you get anartha-nivritti, and then when there's no more anarthas, then bhajana kriya, actually manifests, or nishta bhajana kriya. In other words, your worship is not derailed by anything anymore. And that's what this is going to explain, and it's like a page and a half. So here we go. Nishta means to have the quality of steadiness, or naishchalyam, non-movement. Though a person tries for steadiness every day, while the anarthas are still present, he will not attain it. This is due to these 5 persistent obstacles: laya, sleep; vikshepa, distraction; apratipati, indifference or disinterest in spiritual topics; kashaya, tendency toward bad habits; and rasavada, taste for material enjoyment. After the stage of anartha-nivritti, when these obstacles are almost completely destroyed, one achieves steadiness. Thus the symptom of nishtha is the absence of these 5 obstacles. There's a kind of a quote Prabhupada would say, that's when you don't like to sleep, or when sleep is something you don't want to do, you're beginning to become advanced. You're becoming advanced, which means you're becoming steady. You'll become consistently engaged in devotional service. You won't want to sleep like so many pure devotees. So he goes through each item here. Let's read it. Laya means the tendency to sleep during kirtan, shravana, and smarana, japa, in order to increase in order to increase tendency. Laya means the tendency to sleep during kirtan, shravana and smarana, japa. That's hearing and remembering, in order to increase tendency. Vikshepa means distraction toward mundane topics while doing devotional service. For example, gossiping while doing japa. Apratipati refers to the occasional inability to do kirtan or other service in spite of the absence of laya, sleep, or vikshepa, distraction. So, apratipati is indifference or disinterest in spiritual topics. So, even though you're not distracted by anything, and even though you're not tired, you still won't do any kirtan. That's the problem. Okay, then kashaya refers to the innate tendency towards such qualities as anger, greed, and pride. Rasa svada means the inability to absorb the mind in kirtan and other services if one gets the opportunity for material sense pleasure. In other words, if you hear of sense pleasure, you know of an opportunity, your mind is distracted and is, longing for that sort of thing. So, nishtita bhakti appears in the absence of these faults. Tada rajastama bhava kama lobhadayaschaye cheta etir anavidtam stitam sattve prasidati. Quote, as soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust and greed, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness, and he becomes completely happy. Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 19 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Here the word cha, used in its collective sense, refers to the presence of passion and ignorance. However, the words etir anavidtam, no longer affected by these, indicate that these impurities, though still present to some slight degree up to the stage of bhava, they do not act as an obstacle to bhakti. That's interesting. Nishta is of two types, concerning bhakti directly and concerning elements favorable to bhakti. Sakshat bhakti has unlimited forms. That's direct bhakti concerning bhakti. Nishta concerning bhakti directly. So, Sakshat bhakti has unlimited forms. But there are three basic divisions: bodily, vocal, and mental. According to some sages, first one attains steadiness in bodily services, then in vocal activities, and finally in mental activities, going from gross to subtle. Others, however, disagree with this progression, saying that the eagerness to serve the Lord in a particular manner develops first due to the individual's natures of the devotees, whose bodily, vocal, and mental strength may vary. So if someone's a good thinker, then, maybe they'll be engaged in giving class sooner than later, kind of thing. Or if somebody is just more physical, then they'll be engaged in doing physical work for Krishna, and maybe they never give class. At any rate, elements favorable to bhakti refer to humility, giving respect to others, friendliness, and mercifulness. At times, however, one may see steadiness in such qualities in a self-controlled devotee who has no steadiness in bhakti, while elsewhere one may not perceive steadiness in these qualities in an arrogant devotee who has attained steadiness in bhakti. In spite of this, by the presence or absence of steadiness in bhakti itself, sakshat bhakti, rather than in the qualities of bhakti, learned wise men understand the actual presence or absence of nishtha. Those who are inexperienced are unable to perceive the truth. This is confirmed by the verses cited before, Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. With the presence of Naishtiki Bhakti, Tada Rajastamo Bhava Etir Anavitam, those traces of the qualities born of raja and tama guna may be present, but no longer affect the devotee. In summary, what has been shown is that laxity or intensity of effort, as well as difficulty or ease in hearing, chanting, and doing other devotional service, are the criteria for determining the two types of bhakti, namely steady and unsteady. So, just to kind of clarify, someone may have, elements, qualities that are favorable to bhakti, like humility, giving respect to others, friendliness, and mercifulness. These are all considered external ultimately, because one could be humble and giving respect to others, be very friendly and be very merciful to others, but sometimes such a person could have those qualities and not care a fig for Bhakti-yoga, for worshipping Krishna. And another time you may find someone, like for example, he says there may be an arrogant devotee, but they could be steady in bhakti. And so what he says here is that he says sakshat bhakti is the actual characteristic of that one should look for if they want to determine if someone is steady in devotional service, if they're in nishta or not. Remember, he said nishta is of two types concerning bhakti directly, sakshat bhakti or vartini, and concerning elements favorable to bhakti, bhaktyānukūla vastur vartini. So one is qualities that are favorable, because there are qualities that are favorable, obviously, and there's qualities that are unfavorable. Yet, despite unfavorable qualities, since bhakti is independent, and therefore, even if certain qualities are not manifest, as far as things like humility and giving respect to others, friendliness, even if that stuff isn't manifest, if someone is by body, by voice, and by mind doing service and devotional service, doing services according to the instructions of the spiritual master and the previous acharyas and so on, that person should be understood to be steady in devotional service. They're steady in bhakti. Therefore, bhakti really doesn't have anything to do with necessarily, nothing, but generally it doesn't have, that's hard to say, but it's not, bhakti is independent of the qualities or the natures that people put off. Oftentimes, anyway, it's an important point, because oftentimes we say, oh, this person is so, their qualities are so sweet and humble and this and that is not an indicator of steadiness or advancement in devotional service. It's just not. Because devotional service is independent of all that stuff. Ultimately, if you think about the gopis or you think about the cowherd boys, they have different ways of behaving, and it's all about, is it pleasing Krishna or not? Sometimes Krishna is pleased when, a gopi gets angry with him or whatever it is. Sometimes Krishna is pleased when a cowherd boy is, wrestles with him, or, pretends to be, is very proud of his whatever it is. If it pleases Krishna, that's what matters. The other point here is that in this stage, the modes of ignorance and passion are not completely cleansed. They're not totally purified. So even though one is steady in devotional service, sometimes qualities of rajas and tama may be present, but they don't affect the devotee. This means that they don't actually change the devotee's ability or inability to engage in devotional service, unless of course that ends up becoming an offense or an aparad, particularly against Guru or Vaishnava or the holy name. That could set one back. But simply being proud on your own, but you could still not be affected by that. It's like I don't know. It's like ice on a big lake. It's just on the surface, but it doesn't affect all the water underneath. It doesn't affect the depth of the lake, and it doesn't affect the nature of the lake itself. Just having a thin layer of ice on the top. So it's like that. There may be a hard layer on some devotees, but underneath, if they're fully engaged in devotional service, So therefore one should not judge devotees based on these superficial things. One should see whether they're deeply engaged in devotional service or not. However, if one should also associate with like-minded devotees as to not, commit offenses. So, okay, let's continue. Fifth shower of nectar. Attainment of taste. Okay, when the devotee takes into his heart the golden medallion of bhakti, shining brightly by the fire of steady practice and propelled by its own energy, then ruchi appears. When a person develops a taste for the activities of bhakti, such as hearing and chanting, vastly greater than attraction for anything else, that is called ruchi. Unlike previous stages, at ruchi, constant performance of devotional service like hearing and chanting does not cause even the slightest fatigue. Ruchi quickly produces an intense addiction to the activities of bhakti. This is similar to the Brahmana boy who, diligently studying the scriptures daily, in time grasps the meaning, and then finds no difficulty at all in applying himself to study. Moreover, he takes pleasure in doing his task. The actual conclusion can be understood by the following example. Due to a disease in the liver, the ability to taste becomes affected and sugar candy becomes distasteful. Sugar candy, however, is also the medicine to cure the disease. Understanding this, an afflicted person will take sugar candy daily even if it tastes bitter, and eventually, as it cures his sickness, he will develop a real taste for it. In the same way, the jiva's heart, infected with ignorance and the other kleshas, becomes cured by the medicine of repeatedly hearing, chanting, and other devotional methods. Then eventually he develops a taste for these activities. So of course he's referring to Rupa Goswami's example of jaundice. Jaundice is a disease of the liver, in fact. So ruchi is of two types. That which depends on excellence of elements, vastu vaishishthya pikshini, and that which does not, vastu vaishishthya pikshini. Anapikshini, excuse me. Excellent of elements refers to an excellent of details in relation to the Lord's name, form, qualities, pastimes, and so on. For instance, a person may only experience pleasure from kirtan if it is pleasing to the ear and artistically sung. He may only relish topics of the Lord if they are delivered skillfully with poetic ornaments and qualities. He may only enjoy deity worship if the place, implements, and materials, and so on, are according to his fancy. This is called dependence on excellence of elements. It is similar to persons with a weak appetite asking about the variety and quality of preparations in a meal. The cause is a slight impurity in the heart of the devotee. One should thus understand this dependence on the excellence of elements in kirtan and other devotional practices as a taint of impurity in the heart. Doshabhasa. A person with the second type of ruchi will experience great pleasure even from the beginning of any performance of such practices as shravanam and kirtanam. If, however, there is excellence in the elements, then he becomes extremely joyful and ecstatic. It means that he has not the slightest trace of impurity in his heart. Jai. Oh, when will that day come? Haribol. Quote, O friend, why are you giving up the nectar of Krishna's names to talk about such useless things as family life, security, and all? What can I say to you? I myself am so wicked, though I received the precious jewel of bhakti by the mercy of the spiritual master. I am so unfortunate that I kept it tied in the hem of my cloth, unaware of its value. I was searching out a cracked cowrie shell, a tiny speck of false happiness on the shore of the ocean of mundane activities. Cowrie? Cowrie shell. Thus, wandering here and there, I passed the years of my life in vain, not practicing any activity of bhakti. I've simply shown lethargy. Oh, such am I, in my sense of taste, that I lick up bitter-tasting, deceitful, profane gossip as if nectar, but remain apathetic to hearing the names, qualities, and pastimes of the Lord. I'm so fallen. When I start to hear about the Lord, I comfortably fall asleep. But at the chance for vulgar idle talk, my ears prick up, and I become wide awake. In this way I've always stained the assembly of devotees. What sinful acts have I done, even in my decrepit old age, simply to satisfy my insatiable... What sinful acts I haven't done, even in my decrepit old age, simply to satisfy my insatiable belly. For all these sins, I don't know for how long or in what hell I'll have to suffer." Unquote. In this way, the devotee repents his former state. So, real humility starts to kick in, right? realizing what they've been missing. Yeah. Do we realize what we're missing? Then somewhere, sometime, the devotee becomes like a bee tasting the nectar of the fruit of Mahopanishad, desire tree, Srimad Bhagavatam. Mahopanishad. Mahopanishad. The great Upanishad. Excuse me. He remains constantly with devotees, sitting with them, conversing about the nectarine pastimes of the Lord, relishing and glorifying them again and again, to the exclusion of all other topics. He enters the sacred Dhamma and becomes fixed in the pure unalloyed service of the Lord. Seva Nishta. Ignorant people think he is going crazy. Are you ready to go crazy? To begin the new dance step of the devotee's joyful way of meditating on and serving the Lord, Ruchi, the dance instructress, takes him by the two hands to personally teach him. Thus he begins to experience extraordinary, unimaginable bliss. Who can describe in what realm of bliss he'll reside when, in time, he is made to dance by the two-headed mistress of dance, Bhava and Prema? That's an ecstatic end to that chapter. Thus ends the fifth shower of nectar of Madhuraya Kadambini by Mahomahapadaya Srimad Vishvanatha Cakravarti, entitled Attainment of Taste. Okay, sixth shower of nectar, enchantment of the heart. Next, when the state of doing bhajana reaches extreme depth, and Krishna becomes the very object of one's devotional service, one attains to asakti, or attachment. At the stage of asakti, this chapter is called Enchantment of the Heart, the desire creeper of bhakti bears clusters of buds heralding the swift appearance of the flowers of bhava, and then fruits of prema. The difference between Ruchi and Asakti is that Ruchi mainly has bhajana, devotional practice, as its subject, while Asakti mainly has the Lord, the object of bhajana, as its subject. Actually, Ruchi and Asakti have both as their subjects. Actually, Ruchi and Asakti have both as their subjects. Bhajana and the Lord. But they differ in that Ruchi is the immature stage of attachment, while Asakti is the mature stage. Asakti polishes the mirror of the heart to such a state the reflection of the Lord suddenly seems to be almost visible there. Quote, "Oh, my mind is being carried away by material desires. Let me fix it on the Lord." Unquote. Prior to Asakti, unrealizing his mind has been overpowered by material objects and desires, the devotee, by his deliberate effort, almost withdraws his mind from them and tries to fix it on the Lord's form, qualities, and so on. So that's prior to Asakti. At the appearance of Asakti, however, absorption of the mind in the Lord is automatic, without effort. Even at the stage of Nishta, a devotee is unable to detect how and when his mind withdraws from topics of the Lord's form, qualities, and so on, and fixes itself on material affairs. On the contrary, at the stage of Asakti, one does not know how and when his mind withdraws from material topics and spontaneously absorbs itself in topics of the Lord. One below the level of asakti can never experience this. Only a devotee on this level can know what asakti is. So in nishta, you won't be able to detect when your mind has gone away from topics of the Lord. In the stage of asakti, one does not know when his mind withdrawed from material topics and became absorbed in the Lord. That could be much like, falling asleep and then waking up and not realizing, and waking up somewhere else and not realizing when you've fallen asleep. You might become absorbed in the Lord and then snap out of it and go, wait a minute, where am I? What am I doing? I was absorbed in Krishna service. When did it start? God, I have no idea. Anyway, Hari Bol, And it's not scary. That sounds scary to us, but for someone who's in a sakti, it's so blissful. You could care less, because what else is everybody doing but trying to find pleasure in life? And in the material world, if you space out too much, if you black out and wake up somewhere, that's a problem, because who knows what you did, and all that, and who knows how much time you lost in making progress and keeping your house clean or making money or whatever it is. But in Krishna consciousness, because pleasure is a constant companion of the devotee, spacing out like this for hours on end is something you just ready to get back to if you snap out of it. Interesting. Early in the morning, seeing another devotee, he'll begin talking. Where are you coming from? You have perhaps a shaligram shila in a lovely case hanging from your neck. Chanting softly, your tongue is quivering every moment by tasting the nectar of Krishna's name. I don't know why you're giving your darshan to an unfortunate person like me and making me joyful. Please tell me about all the holy places you've visited. Describe all the saintly souls you've met and what realizations they've blessed you with. You're perfecting yourself and others also, unquote. In this way he'll pass some time drinking nectar and intimate talks. Elsewhere, seeing another devotee, he'll say, quote, the enchanting scripture under your arm is making you appear very elegant. Thus I can guess you're very learned and realized. Kindly recite one verse of the 10th canto for me and bring life to the chataka birds of my ears, awaiting the nectar raindrops of its meaning. Unquote. Hearing the devotee's explanations, his hair stands on end in ecstasy. Going elsewhere, seeing an assembly of devotees, he'll say, oh, today my life will be successful, for the association of devotees will destroy all my sins. Unquote. Thinking in this way, he pays obeisances to them, falling like a stick on the ground. Being welcomed with affection by the most erudite Mahabhagavat, the crown jewel of all devotees, he sits before him in crouched posture. He humbly begs from him with tears in his eyes. Quote, O Master, you are the crest jewel of physicians, able to eradicate the grave material disease that afflicts all living entities in the three worlds. I am the most fallen and depraved person. Please take my pulse, diagnose my malady, and advise me what medicine and diet to take. By that miracle drug, give me my desired nourishment. Unquote. Overjoyed with the merciful glance of that Mahabhagavat and his trickling nectar of sweet words, he remains a few days to serve that devotee's lotus feet. At times, wandering in the forest full of love, he'll intuitively interpret the natural movements of the animals and birds as signs of Krishna's favor or disfavor with him. Quote, if Krishna is showing his mercy to me, then the deer in the distance will come towards me 3 or 4 steps. If he isn't, then she'll turn and run away. Unquote. On the outskirts of a village, seeing a small Brahmana boy playing, who reminds him of the child saint Sanaka, he'll inquire from him, quote, will you see Vrajendra Kumara? No? No. Hearing that simple syllable, he'll deliberate on whether to take the answer on face value or to seek deeper meaning. At times he'll remain in his house like a very wealthy but miserly merchant greedy for treasure. Quote, "Where shall I go? What shall I do? How'll I get my hands on my desired object?" Unquote. With a worn face, he'll be lost all day in thought like this while dreaming, standing, or sitting. When asked by his relatives what's the matter, he'll sometimes act like a mute, and at other times, feigning normality, he hides his inner feelings. His friends will apologize. His friends will apologize. Quote, "Recently he's become scatterbrained," unquote. His neighbors will conclude he's an idiot by birth. The followers of Mimamsa, the philosophy of Jaimini, will think him a fool. Those who study Vedanta will consider him illusioned. The practitioners of pious activities will say he's misguided. The devotees will say he's attained the essential truth. The offenders will say he's a pretender. But that devotee, oblivious to honor and dishonor, having fallen into the current of the great celestial river of attachment to the Lord, Asakti, simply continues in the same manner. Thus ends the sixth shower of nectar of Madhuraya Kadambini by Mahamohapadaya Srimad Vishvanatha Cakravarti, entitled Enchantment of the Heart. Okay. So now the seventh shower of nectar. These are all like, it's great. He's describing, every section is describing what one will do, what one will feel, what will the natural thoughts be. It's very organic elucidation. So, seventh shower of nectar. Flowing of supreme bliss. When Asakti achieves its utmost maturity, it is called rati or bhava. Bhava is the budding stage of the three potencies of the Lord Satchidananda Sarupa Shakti, Sandini, Sanvit, and Haladini. Excuse me. In other words, at Bhava, one is entering into the Vishuddha Sattva platform, pure goodness, or spiritual platform, and these potencies are just starting to manifest. So Sandini, Sanvit, and Haladini, this is the like Satchit Ananda, like that. Knowledge, bliss, and eternity, those are the potency of the spiritual platform. So these potencies are just starting to manifest, like the rays of the dawning sun. It is thus the blossoming flower of the desire creeper of bhakti. Its outer luster is the quality of sudurlabha, rarely achieved, and its inner luster is moksha lagu krit, deriding even the conception of liberation. Just one atom of bhava totally uproots ignorance. The profuse release of fragrances from the flower of bhava invites the bee, Madhusundana, and causes him to appear there. What more can I say? The perfume of the flower of bhava melts all the emotions of the heart, like the oil of bunches of sesame seeds, at once fit to lovingly smear on all the limbs of the Lord. At the appearance of bhava, its influence makes even a Chandala worthy of respect from Lord Brahma and others. At that time his eyes fully long to turn towards Vrajendranandana, to lick the blackness of his limbs, Shamalimma, the rosy hue of his lips and eye rims, Arunima, the white brilliance of his moon-like teeth shining in his smiling face, and the yellow hue of his cloth and ornaments. His throat chokes up, and countless streams of tears bathe his body. He longs for his ears to be adorned with the earrings of the song of Krishna's flute, the jingling of his ankle bells, and the sweet sound of his voice, giving the order to serve his lotus feet. Thus it seems as if he's running here and there, freezing his motion at every step, and raising his ears. Then thinking how the tender touch of the Lord's two hands must be. His body erupts in ecstasy. His nostrils open wide again and again as he inhales, eager to examine the divine fragrance of the Lord's body. Quote, "Oh, will I ever be able to taste the nectar of the Lord's lips?" Unquote. Feeling like he has attained that taste, rasana, his tongue feels great joy, and he licks his lips. Sometimes, feeling like he has obtained direct realization of the Lord in his heart, spurti, boundless joy dances in his heart. Relishing the rare treasure of the Lord's sweetness, Madhuraya, he becomes delirious. Then, at the disappearance of that feeling, he plunges into grief. In this way it seems as if he is decorating his body with the 33 symptoms of sanchari bhava. Well, in the state of wakefulness, sleep, and deep sleep, his intelligence becomes firmly fixed as the pilgrim on the path of his remembrance of Krishna. The self-conceit, ahanta, I, of the sadhaka seems as if it enters into siddha deha, spiritual identity, suitable to his desire to serve the Lord, and his material body remains almost as if he has left it. His sense of possessiveness, mamata, mine, becomes like a bee to relish the nectar of the Lord's lotus feet. Having obtained the most precious jewel of bhava, like a miser, the devotee tries to hide it from the ordinary people. One nyaya, logic, however, says a bright face tells of hidden wealth. The face is the index of the mind. Thus, advanced devotees will recognize his internal status as he becomes the residence of such wonderful qualities as tolerance and renunciation, which manifest at the stage of bhava. Common people, unable to discern these qualities, will conclude that his mind is distracted or mad. Bhava is of two types, that arising from raga bhakti and that arising from vaidhi bhakti. Bhava arising from raganuga bhakti, being excessive in quality and quantity, is very thick or intense. Its trait is a total absence of awe and veneration, while the feeling that the Lord is on an equal or lower level predominates. The second type, arising from vaidhi bhakti, being somewhat lesser in quality and quantity than the first, is not as thick or intense. It is marked with affection for the Lord mixed with knowledge of the Lord's opulence as the Almighty. These two types of bhava are relished in two different ways in the hearts of the two types of devotees, filled with two types of spiritual desires. So, I think basically one has to do with worship of Vishnu and his greatness, and one, I don't know, there may be some level of bhava that is there about the kind of personal activities of Vishnu, but generally Vishnu is worshipped in his greatness, and Vishnu is Aishvarya Bhava, very powerful, very wealthy, and like that, where Krishna, this Raganuga Bhava, is more about the personal form and the sweetness and the kind of we're equals, we're friends, there's less separation between the Lord and the devotee, and in that sense, and that is the more raganuga or spontaneous kind of bhava. So as juices of mango, jackfruit, sugar cane, or grapes differ in thickness, so there are different degrees of sweetness in bhava. Thus the devotees are of 5 kinds according to their bhavas. Shantas, neutral admirers; dasas, servants; sakhas, friends; pitris, elders; and preyasis, lovers. The shantas are acting in shanti, peacefulness; the dasas in priti, affection; the sakhas in sakya, friendship; the pitris in vatsalya, parental love; and the preyasis in priyata, conjugal love. Then again, these 5 bhavas by their own energy take on vibhava, anubhava, sattviki, vyabhichari as their subjects, along with their opulences, and becoming the kings, known as sthayi bhavas. These 5 sthayi bhavas, mixing with these elements, mature into the 5 different rasas: shanta, dasya, sakya, vatsalya, and ujvala. This kind of stuff from Nectar of Devotion now. The Shruti texts define the Lord as the very essence of rasa, rasa sarup, raso vai saha, rasam hyevayam, labdha vanandi bhavati. The Lord is rasa itself, and attaining that rasa, the jiva becomes blissful. Though water is present in all the streams, rivers, and ponds, still, the ocean is the great reservoir of all water. So too, rasa is present in all the avatars of the Lord, and the source of avatars, avatari, but does not reach perfection in any of them. Rather, it attains its absolute climax in Vrajendra Nandana, Krishna, the son of the king of Vraj. When bhava first matures and begins to ripen into prema, then that very Vrajendra Nandana, rasa personified, is directly realized by such qualified devotees. Thus ends the seventh shower of nectar of Madhuraya Kadambini by Mahopadaya Srimad Vishvanatha Cakravarti, entitled Flowing of Supreme Bliss. So, the next chapter, eighth chapter, we'll save until, because it's kind of long, but it's really cool because it talks about how Krishna kind of like reveals his personal self. What does he smell like? What does he look like? What is his touch like? What is his embrace like? And how Krishna will show himself. Because he doesn't do it all at once. I don't know if that would. I don't know what that would do, but Krishna does it gradually, apparently. And that is how prema actually develops. By knowing something very specific about Krishna. Falling in love with Krishna requires his presence. So this is chapter 8. We'll read it on Monday. Eighth shower of nectar, fulfillment of the heart's desire. I mean, I tell ya, I would be like over the moon if I could get to ruchi. If we could just get free from all these anartas and all these bad behaviors and offensive attitudes and all these things. We could just get to ruchi. That would be like the functional level of being a pure devotee. Of course, naturally you want to make progress all the way to prema, but if you get to a sakti, I don't know if you can do any more preaching. You just start to, lose it. You lose it to Krishna. Of course, I suppose as there is, like it says in the Shikshastaka, there's a stage where one is just, separation from Krishna is like a year or more, and you're just kind of maddened. Once there's a normalization happens, once one becomes used to again being in love with Krishna, then perhaps they can regain control and again do more functional things within the material world, as Srila Prabhupada did or Bhakti-siddhanta did. I know there's a story about one devotee. He was concerned that now that Bhakti-yoga Thakur had left the planet, that the preaching mission of Lord Chaitanya was kind of stopped, so he went to seek out Bhakti-siddhanta, the son of Bhakti-yoga Thakur. And Srila Bhakti-siddhanta Sarasvati Thakur he heard that he was doing some vrata, some austerity of chanting 1 billion names of God, as he promised Bhakti-yoga Thakur that he would do. And so he was doing this in Mayapur, or in the Navadvip area. And there's a temple there. You can go. It's a Gaudiya Math temple, and there's a spot where he chanted this billion rounds. And I don't really know of how accurate my story about this whole, but the general thing is that he found Bhakti-siddhanta, but he was just blissed out, running through the forest like a madman, like, don't you see the Panchatattvas here? They're here. And it was just like he had lost his mind. He was just gone in spiritual ecstasy, and had no real, he was just absorbed in this, what we're just reading. And so this devotee said, oh, okay, I guess the preaching mission is stopped, because, who would come back from that? Who would want to come back from that at all? And as it happens, I don't know how long it took, maybe a year later or 3 years later. I should get all the details because it's probably interesting. Bhaktisiddhanta, appears at this devotee's door, dressed as a sannyasi, stern and sober and focused and ready to preach Krishna consciousness. And he basically says that much to this devotee. And so then, Bhaktisiddhanta begins his mission. So after achieving prema, apparently, if he wasn't already always in it, after achieving this platform, then he began his preaching mission, because obviously that's going to be the best thing. And so it is described that the greatest devotee, Mahabhagavat, one who is in prema, they come down from that high platform to the second class platform of devotional service. They begin to make distinctions in the material world so they can do some kind of preaching work that is common amongst, the sampradaya that we're in, to despite certain spiritual masters becoming highly elevated, they'll come back to the second class platform or the Madhyama Adhikari position to preach. And they're highly effective. Bhaktisiddhanta was highly effective. Srila Prabhupada was highly effective. So anyway, thank you very much for listening again. I will once again quickly find this post for the video. I keep saying that. Not the video chat, but the audio chat that we're using. And I encourage people to log into it, sign into it, and join us in sharing realizations, or not, it could be anything. Just like, I really like this. This was so cool. I'm inspired by this. Blah 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 blah. Whatever it might be. If people want to say more or ask a question, even, there's the link. I posted it in the chat, and follow that link to set up your account. It's really easy to do. You just need a mic, headphones, whatever. So I'll be over there, willing and ready to talk with anybody. And we could even, as people get used to this, we could even use this as a way to get together and chant our japa together. If we all want to do that, I can wake up in the morning, plug in, get our headphones on, and then we could chant together in the morning at any time. So if people are interested in that, you know how to get a hold of us, or we can text you or whatever. Just got to get your account set up. So I'm going to move over there now. Thank you very much for listening. And if you're listening to this after the fact, I've also got a Twitter account. So if you want to follow me there, you'll get posts when I live stream. Or if you subscribe to this live stream, then you'll get you get some kind of notification that we're going live. And it'd be kind of cool if we could get this to be a robust thing with lots of people listening and then sharing, commenting, and whatever. So at any rate, thank you very much. See you on Monday. Maybe I'll read some Bhagavatam sooner than that, but if not guaranteed, we'll finish this book on Monday, and then I think we'll read Bhagavad Gita, because this is the month of Bhagavad Gita Advent. Okay, so Hare Krishna, Hare Bo.